not too sure what it is about this tree, but the bees obviously like it. I caught a swarm off this tree on Sunday, another one on Tuesday. It's now Thursday, and we've got a third swarm that's taken up residence in the tree. I'm wondering whether it's the fact that the queens have landed there multiple times, and when these clusters around here and they stay there for a little bit of time, they can leave a bit of the pheromone behind. So I think what the other bee swarms are smelling is the pheromone of the queens that have been here, and that's acting as a bit of an attractant. So anyway, whatever the cause, whatever the reason, we've got a third swarm in a week. So I'm going to use the same classic bucket and shake method and get these bees in a box. The good thing about this swarm is that they've clustered conveniently on an outside branch, so it's going to be, and it's a beautiful shaped cluster, so it's going to be really easy to get the bucket in underneath, get most of those bees inside the bucket, almost put the lid on the top there, give them a good shake and get all of those bees in the bucket nice and neatly, nice and tidily. And then I can just bring them down the ladder and pop them into this 5-frame nuke box. The cluster's actually quite large. I haven't got any large boxes made up now because I've used them all. So they will fit into a 5-frame nuke box, but I'm going to have to move them into a bigger box by the weekend because it is quite a large cluster. Beautiful bunch of bees, so let's get them in the box. So just a little bit of sugar water, it just calms them down, and when you shake them into the bucket it means they're less likely to take flight and they drop more neatly into the bucket and just seem to stay there. So they tend to think it's just started raining, so they tend to settle, so it's quite nice to use. So when you're tipping the bees in the box, what you want to do is have the frames handy, but not in the box when you're tipping them. If I was to leave the frames in the box and tip the bees straight in, they would just cascade over the top and end up spilling out onto the ground. So the trick is to remove the frames first. I like to leave, if possible, a frame either side on the outside, just so that when the bees go in the box and they start climbing up the walls, they're more likely to climb onto the frames rather than start to climb out. So we've got a nice gap there where we can now gently tip those bees straight in there and very quickly put those frames in and let the frames sort of settle down, and then they'll very quickly start to climb onto those frames. So I'll just make sure that I've got the bees maybe to the bottom. Okay, and I'll very quickly get them in. It's got a few taking flight there. Come on. Okay, get those frames in quick smart. That queen is in there. Very gently put those frames in and get those girls to go in. And then what I'll gently do is just very gently get those other girls to go in. Right, so I just went back up with the bucket and shook the remaining little cluster of bees off that branch into the bucket, and then I've just set the bucket down at the entrance. I don't want to take the lid back off the hive now because a lot of the bees will start pouring back out, so I want to try and leave them contained to settle. So I've just left the bucket here at the entrance, and these girls will just start to march in. So it's a case now of just sitting and watching and just checking to see. I'm pretty confident that I've got the queen in the first go, if not in the bucket, and so I'm just going to sit and watch them for a little while. They've already found the entrance. There's some bees fanning at the entrance, which is what you'd expect, and I've even got some bees that are trying to figure out how to get in through the hole at the back, which is another little entrance hole that I had when I did a trap out. So what I'll do is I'll leave these girls to settle now until it's dark, and then I'll very gently lift the box and move them to a better location. Until they get settled, you have to be a bit careful about how you move the box. Be very gentle with it, try not to bang it or shake it, because that can disrupt the queen, and if she thinks that it's not a stable environment, then she might decide to abscond, and you come home the next day and the box is empty. So we'll see how these girls go, but fingers crossed, if she likes the box and stays in it, it's another successful swarm capture.